I think we're officially past the time where it's okay to think that Xbox Game Pass is something bad or something terrible. I think that now we can finally say with some certainty that it's a good thing and it's a very popular thing and a lot of people use it. We don't have the exact numbers, and I think that's fine. At the end of the day, Microsoft is making money and it's taking places. Yeah, and yeah, listen, I get it. You care about Microsoft's money, blah blah blah. I don't care about Microsoft's money, which is why I always say it's not up for me to decide what's right for Microsoft, right? If they're the ones that want to decide to put their games into Game Pass day one, then that's on them, and I feel like, they probably have figured that out by now. But where I'm concerned, I think that, at the end of the day, I really love what they're doing in terms of bringing new content to gamers. And if outside companies like this are doing some amazing things for and it can recognize what Game Pass is doing. Who am I to disagree, right? So I want to get into this because this is a fascinating story, and I think one that really touches close to home for me because it's something that I grew up with and something that I enjoy. So think about this for a second. Hasbro wants Microsoft and Xbox to bring back Activision's Transformers games. Now, the classic Transformers games, War for Cybertron, Fall for Cybertron, and Transformers Devastation, may soon come to Xbox Game Pass. During an interview with Transformers fan website Transformers World 2005, Hasbro stated a desire to re-release a collection of Transformers games published by Activision onto Xbox consoles and Xbox Game Pass. These games include the movie tie-in games to the live-action Transformer movies, that the ones that High Moon Studios did, War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, and Platinum Games Transformers Devastations. Now, I own all of these games, and there's actually Rise of the Darkspark, which wasn't as good, but I own that one as well. Now, the Transformers, if you didn't know, is a long-running franchise. Who doesn't know Transformers at this part? But it's something I grew up with. Born in the 80s, you got into Transformers. I still have some of mine. And it's fantastic. The movies are still being made. In fact, the Rise of the Beast just came out recently, and I think it's streaming on Paramount or something like that. But I watched it. It was pretty good stuff. Obviously, I think that it's a huge franchise, and with sort of the resurgence, you start to see sort of the resurgence of these types of things. So anyway, the Transformers fan website, Transformers World, conducted an interview, and the company that created the Transformers franchise, amongst other various topics discussed, live-action movies and the upcoming Transformers toys. However, Hasbro mentioned that the prospect of them realistically releasing the games will be difficult due to the games themselves being misplaced amongst Activision's archives. And here's what the quote actually says, and I quote, "Sadly, apparently Activision's not sure what hard drives they're on in their building. When a company eats a company that eats a company, things get lost, and that's very frustrating. Hope is that now that the deal is moving forward with Microsoft and Xbox, they'll go through all of the archives and every hard drive to find it all, because it's an easy Game Pass ad. We want those games back up for people to have a chance to play." So anyway, the list of Transformers published games by Activision includes War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, Devastation, Transformers the Game, Transformers the Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers Dark of the Moon, and Rise of the Dark Spark. Now that Microsoft has won its court battle against the FTC to buy Activision Blizzard, it's very likely that Activision will go back and comb through its archives to recover these Transformers games and re-release them onto the Series X and S and into Game Pass, because these are great things, and it would be a good way to sort of help these games survive, in terms of, hey, let's go out there and make sure that these games can, be preserved for the future and things like that. Again, while most of these games were standard movie tie-ins, a few were surprisingly stood out amongst the crowd. War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, which were developed by High Moon Studios, received critical and fan acclaim for their deep third-person shooter action gameplay. They were gritty yet faithful interpretations of the Transformers origin stories, and even featured functioning multiplayer. Not only that, but of course they had the voice actors and things like that from the actual movies, and that's exactly what they needed to do. I feel like, hey, this is something that is fantastic, that obviously people want the chance to kind of have and buy and play and stuff like that, and that's exactly what it's all about. Now, Transformers Devastation, developed by Platinum Games, also had a highly positive reception, was a pretty good brawler that let players control the classic G1 versions, which I thought was really cool because it looks just like the cartoon. I have that digitally, thankfully. I think these games are like pretty much out of print. Like I have copies on the 360 of the two Transformers games, Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron. Those go for a pretty good price, like on eBay and things like that, but I don't sell my stuff. But yeah, those are definitely ones that kind of go for a decent price. Same thing, oddly enough, I think Platinum Games did a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, it's called Mutants in Manhattan, for Activision, and that game goes for a high price because these games are out of print. So I mean, you can find them sometimes, but yeah, it's a little bit more on the rare side, and so yeah, pretty interesting to see that happening. Anyway, but if the Transformer games do manage to re-release on modern Xbox consoles and join Game Pass, I think that that's going to make everybody happy. And again, this is just one of the bonuses of Game Pass, and I think Xbox in general. Like Microsoft has done, I thought, a pretty good job of making sure that there is plenty of content for everybody to play. And, just adding stuff like this, I think, makes it even more well-rounded. Because those games, believe it or not, I know people don't like to pass this word around, but are what I would consider to be beloved games. And, you don't see stuff like that anymore. Because at the end of the day, there was this time where licensed properties really weren't well taken care of, and I think High Moon Studios did a really good job of taking care of the IP. They cared about it. Of course, Activision, not owned by Microsoft at that point, they put a different company on the Rise of the Dark Spark game, and that game suffered. And they had High Moon Studios, I think they do Call of Duty now. They help with Call of Duty, so that's kind of lame. And that's one of the hopes that, bringing in somebody else, let High Moon Studios get back to doing what they do. Let, whoever does Tony Hawk do some Tony Hawk. Let whoever does Crash do some Crash. Like, I get that Activision as a company, they only wanted to take chances on things that were Call of Duty, or they could sell a cajillion copies, but at the same time, us as fans lose out on stuff when that happens. We don't get what we normally would. So, I hope that we would see, more stuff in the future come out that we can all kind of enjoy like this. But yeah, absolutely, I would love this, and I'm sure a lot of you would as well. Let me know, did you guys play this? Do you have these games? Would you be interested in them on, on Game Pass? I mean, who would say no to more content? And to think that these games are lost, that's crazy to me. That that these games are just like, hey, we don't have them. They're lost. Who would have thought something like that happens? You think of that like with like TV shows or music or something along those lines, but for this to happen the way that it is, that's crazy. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Rack 'em up. Crep Gamer out.